Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. This is a very special episode of the Three of Skeins Knit and Crochet podcast. I will number it later because I'm not sure what number it's going to be. But Mom and I ended up making a pair of sweaters that have the same theme, but they came out really, really different. So I am Lisa of Three of Skeins, and this is Three of Skeins' Mom, Dolla. Hey, Mom.
Hi.
So, I don't know if anybody remembers, but late last year I started a weekender sweater from Andrea Mowry.
Yeah.
And I did a kind of loosey-goosey knit along with it, and Mom was one of the people who participated, but she didn't knit hers. She did hers in Tunisian crochet, and she didn't use a pattern because the pattern was a knitting pattern, but she would like, you'd say you like the look of the sweater,
I
right?
like the feel of that sweater, yeah.
So Mom just went ahead and made one. So today we thought we would tell you all the kind of nitty-gritty details of how we came out with the results that we ended up with. One second. Let's tighten that up. Yeah, that's better. So, Mom, let's start with yours, because I think everybody knows what the weekender looks like. I'm going to insert a picture of us both wearing our weekenders, so it'll be somewhere on the screen.
So when you decided that you're going to do this knit along, I said, oh, that's interesting. I like that sweater. I like the shape of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to try one. I had this yarn. It was 5 Natura Papyrus, and I had a lot of it. So I was like, okay, this would be it.
Mm-hmm.
So then I looked at, your pattern, and I tried to figure out what attracted me to it. What was the attraction in that sweater? And I found that I liked that false seam down the front.
Yeah.
I liked the workings on the shoulders. And I was like, yeah, I could do something similar that would have the same feel. Because you're not going for the exact thing, but you want the feel of the thing you like. Also decided to do mine in a 3/4 sleeve because mine is in cotton, and I could wear it, pretty much year round.
Now, I thought that was an interesting choice that you decided to make yours a summer sweater, when mine is a full-on get cozy in the winter type of sweater.
But like sometimes in the spring it's cool, but it's not. You don't need long sleeves.
And you don't
going
need
into fall. You don't need long sleeves, and because it wasn't wool, I felt it was okay to make it mine in that way also.
And that yarn is like a part silk, part cotton type of yarn, right?
Yes, it's cotton and silk. 78% cotton, 22% silk.
Yeah.
So it feels really delicious.
Can I see yours?
Sure.
It has a really lovely drape. And there's your center seam.
Yeah.
Yep. And the little details
on
the shoulders. That is so neat. And it just feels delightful. Have you worn this one yet?
I haven't worn it out, but I have put it on and I like the way it feels.
So let me ask you, what hook size did you go with?
I went with a 5.
A 5 millimeter?
5 millimeter, which is an H hook.
I think it's an H hook, right?
Yeah, and with a Tunisian cable hook, so that I'd be able to fit everything on it.
What made you go to a 5? Because I think we looked at the ball band of that yarn today, and I think we were talking about a 4.5.
Yeah, and Tunisian, you really want to go up at least a hook size. Depending on how you want the garment to look and how you want it to drape. So I thought going up a hook size would give me a nice drape.
How many swatches did you end up doing for this?
I think I did 2 or 3. Just small swatches. And then I did a bigger piece to measure.
Was it to like just get the fabric you wanted?
Yes.
Now, I was surprised today because when we were talking about this earlier, you told me that you actually made this flat.
Yes, I did.
I would not have known from looking at this that you did it flat.
Yeah, I forgot why I decided to go with flat, but it worked out for me. And the seaming, I wanted to make sure that it would seam nicely, so I looked up on the internet for somebody to show me how. And Rachel, forget her name.
Rachel Henry, right?
Rachel Henry, yes. She does beautiful Tunisian work. A lot of her videos, they're very short, and they're also in French. So you just, you just watch.
Look and follow along. But I think this one, because I looked it up, this one is in English.
She has started to do some in English,
So I will include links to what she calls the invisible seaming technique in Tunisian.
And it really worked well. I did it on the shoulders and I did it on the sides.
Yeah, let me hold that up.
Let's see if we can hold that up.
If not, I will include. Oh, look at that! It focused right away. But that is the seaming.
Now you moved it out of
focus. I did move it out of focus. Crystal is so much better at this part than I am. But I'll probably take a picture of it so you can see it up close because it looks really great. And you did it on the side too.
Yes.
So there's just a little. Now, what you were telling me earlier was that in Tunisian, you close off the row in the second pass.
Yeah.
So you skipped that.
Well, actually, no, you close off your row in the second pass, but when you finished your piece, you usually close that off with like a single crochet or something, but you just, close off the open stitches. To do the joining, you skip closing off the open stitches. You leave them open because those are what you use to seam.
So it's kind of like a grafted seam. So it looks a little different on the inside. Let me see. Actually, you know what? It's almost invisible on the inside too. And considering, I think this was your first time doing this technique, you got a really good result.
So I had practiced that too. Excuse me, on my swatches.
Yeah.
I used it to practice the graphing.
So that's a good tip. If you do make a couple of swatches, use your swatches to practice new techniques because it really makes a difference.
It really did make a difference because I kept doing it till I got it down and then I did it on the garment.
Nice. You also told me you did some shoulder shaping with short rows. I didn't know you could do short rows in Tunisian.
Yeah, again, I think it was one of her videos or somebody else's that showed me how to do the short rows. So the shaping is really in the yellow, and then you finish off with the trim in the top. So you didn't have to worry about doing shaping and ribbing.
So now all the shaping happened down here in the yellow part.
Yeah.
Now, what was that shaping doing? Was it raising the shoulder?
Yeah, you had the shoulder up and then just letting it drape down your arm.
So it just made the shoulder angle.
Yeah.
So it followed the natural line of the shoulder, which is very nice. Did you do any modifications on your sweater?
Not really. I just, got the size that I wanted it to be. And what helped me with that was that I used a sweater that I already had.
Here, I'll get it.
That's in a similar style.
So you picked another drop shoulder sweater.
Yeah,
and mine while I'm up to.
If you notice, that sweater is very similar. It's made in the same style. So I was like, okay, if that fits, if I just follow the measurements on the one I already have.
I mean, it even has a similar shoulder detail.
Exactly.
Wow, okay, you really did like this sweater.
And if you turn it inside out, you would see that. That's one of the reasons I decided to shape it in the body and not in the trim. Because you could see that happening here.
Okay, if you can point to it.
You see? See, it comes down from the shoulder here.
Okay.
Because this was cut and sewn, so they were able to cut it.
Yeah.
But the shaping happens here. It happens in this seam, and then you add your trim.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they just cut theirs to the right shape.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think that's a great tip for people too. If you have a garment that's similar, measure that.
Yeah, and look at the details that's in that sweater, because it kind of points you to what you want to do.
Especially if you already like the fit.
Yeah.
You'll get the exact fit.
It's a nice, cozy sweater. I have that sweater since I was working, and it was one of my really go-to sweaters because it was cozy and roomy, and I really enjoyed wearing it.
So, what size did you finally make your sweater?
Well, I made my sweater with a lot of ease. So I think each panel was 27 inches.
Yeah. So you ended up doing, I think we calculated 6 inches of ease total.
Almost, yeah.
Which is nice because that's another place where it's up to your discretion. The pattern was written for you to do it with 10 inches of ease.
Yeah, no, 10 inches of ease I wouldn't do.
But the amount of ease you like is just up to you.
Yes.
So there's no need to do that much ease if you don't want it. And does it measure similar to this sweater?
Yes. Yeah.
And how many balls did you end up using?
I think I used...
You don't have to guess.
I think it was 9, 8 and 2.
9 and 2.
9 and 2, yes. I used 9 balls and then
So
2 of the white.
9 balls of the yellow and 2 of the white.
Yes.
So it came out, I think, to 1,600 yards.
Yeah.
Because your balls were something in the range of
131 yards. Yeah, 1682 was the whole thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's a DK weight.
Yes.
So you totally summarized it, which I really like. So Mom has a little surprise because I think you had 20 balls total of that yarn.
So when I was finished, I had, I think, 8 balls. I had 8 balls
of one and one of the other.
The white and just 1 ball of the yellow. So I was like, oh, I could do something with that too. I could make another sweater, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to put it away because it was so much. Because you put something down and you never come back to it. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And I had planned really a different little top because I didn't bother to calculate how much I would need. But as I was going, I was like, okay, you're gonna have to modify this to make the yarn you have fit.
Right.
So I made it shorter.
Okay.
And I also, by the time I got to, I'm like, you have 1 ball of yellow. You have to make that work. So that's where the V-neck came in, because I'm like, well, if I cut out all that fabric.
Yes.
It's way less on the back.
Yeah. So that color blocking is only happening in the front.
No, it happens in the back too. That's why I wanted to make sure.
Oh, there's more yellow in the back?
Is there? No,
No.
there's no.
No, it's just happening right there in the front.
This is it. This is all I had of that yarn. So that, okay, if I cut out some of the front, the yellow will be enough, and then I could, just make the back white. And that's what it did. I did this in regular crochet. The body is in a seat stitch, because I thought that would, save some yarn also. But I trimmed it with a Tunisian ribbon.
Nice. So you have a nice flat ribbing.
Yeah.
It lays really nicely too.
Yeah. The secret to having your edging lay is to use some pearl stitches, and I did that on the bottom here, and it's like part of the style, but it also makes it lay flat. You want to hold it?
Sure. And you did the same split hem detail too.
Yeah.
I got it to focus.
So you see that on the bottom, I have the pearl stitch. And on the top of the neck, I did the same thing, and that made it lay flat.
Okay, I think I'm getting a hang of getting this thing to focus. I'm gonna hold it near my face. Aha! There we go. So you have that nice little row of Tunisian pearl stitches.
Yeah, so if you're worried about, it not curling, let's add a row or two.
Yeah.
Or two of pearl stitches, and that will help.
Now, since you're not working in a wool, what did you do about your ends when you were joining your ends?
Oh, whatever I'm working in right now, I just tie my ends together in that
You did like a
magic knot, yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah. I've been using them too, and I'm working in wool, so I haven't had a problem. So is anything else you want to tell people about this sweater?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Mom.
You're welcome.
So when I did my sweater, I used the Weekender pattern from Andrea Mowry, and here's mine. What I loved about it was the same thing Mom did. I love this center stitch detail, and that's just a slip stitch, and I really liked the rib that goes onto the arm and shoulder. Well, it goes onto the shoulder. I use Barocco Ultra Wool. It's a 100% superwash wool, and to block this, I just ran it through the washing machine and then the dryer, and it blocked beautifully. So there was no pinning, no stretching, none of that.
Yeah, I think I ironed mine.
Yeah. Is yours washable too?
Yeah.
Nice. So both yarns end up being washable yarn. It's so convenient, especially for something that I intend this to be my kick around sweater in the fall and winter. I ended up going with a 5.5 millimeter needle for the body and a 4.5, well, it took 3 needles really. I cast it on with a 4.5 millimeter needle, and I did the ribbing in a 5 millimeter needle, and I did the body in a 5.5 millimeter needle. Now, my yarn was quite different than the yarn that was used in the pattern. They use Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, I believe, and that yarn knits up a little bit, I don't know, I think smaller than my yarn did. So I was able to just do my own swatch, measure my swatch, and I did my swatch in the round because most of my sweater is done in the round. Did my swatch in the round and measured from that, and that's where I chose my cast on. Now, to get the size I wanted it to be, I also had a very similar oversized sweater. So I measured this sweater and used that as my size guide. It's also a drop shoulder. The only difference is this one has a V-neck, which was not a problem for me, but it's the same style of body and shoulder and sleeve. So I measured this sweater, and it turns out, although the Andrea Mowry sweater is written to be kind of straight up and down, you know, from the bottom to from the shoulder to the hem, it's pretty much the same width. I did not think that would work for me because my shoulders are narrow compared to my hip. And when I measured this sweater, it confirmed that for me. This sweater, although it looks like it's straight up and down, it's a little bit tapered. So the hem measurement, the body measurement on the sweater is actually bigger than the shoulder measurement.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was emulate that in my hand knit sweater. So I cast on for the size number 5 based on my own gauge, and I decided that when I got to 10 rows before splitting for the sleeves, I would decrease 2 stitches every other row. So I would knock it down 1 size to the size 4 and use those numbers for the upper portion of the sweater from the armhole to the neck. And that way I got the shoulder fit that I wanted, because it fits really great in the shoulder. I'll put a picture in. And I have it skimming over my hips exactly the way I want. And that really, really worked for me. So don't be afraid to adjust things to fit your body better. Because when I saw in the schematic, it was just straight up and down. I was like, oh, because my first idea was, okay, well, maybe I'll just make the hips wider. But when I saw that the shoulder was going to be too wide, I said, okay, let me just make the shoulder smaller and leave the hip alone. This sweater also has some short row shaping in the shoulder area, and it happens in the exact same place Mom did her short row shaping, right below the ribbing. And then for the sleeves, now I thought ahead about the sleeves too, because I knew I was going to be picking up stitches. And once you split for the sleeves, now you're knitting back and forth flat.
Yeah.
So what I did was I slipped the first stitch in each row, because now I'm knitting in rows and turning. And that gave me a really good place to pick up stitches when I came back around to pick up stitches for my armhole. And I also picked up my stitches kind of in a ratio, so I picked up 3 out of every 4 stitches. I did not really use the stitch counts that they gave for the sleeve, basically because I don't in general, just because sometimes, you know, people say, oh, they get gaps and things in their armholes. I avoid that by just picking up all the stitches I need to in order to not leave any gaps. And then I will make those stitches, those extra stitches I did, disappear in the first round that I knit the armhole around. So I don't remember how many stitches she said to pick up, but I picked up more than that just so that I wouldn't leave any holes. And then I disappeared those stitches. And the only thing I had to do was make a note of how many stitches I picked up so that when I did the second sleeve, I would pick the same number of stitches. But I gave myself an insurance policy on that too. I did the sleeves 2 at a time so that I would be working them at the same time, and I could remember, you know, okay, I only picked up, I don't know, X number of stitches on that sleeve, so I'll have to do the same on this sleeve. Also, as I was doing my decreases, I just marked them, and since I was doing the sleeves 2 at a time, I was doing the decreases at the same time, so there was no difference in the sleeves. Because, you know, sometimes when things are done in pairs, they're similar for me, not exactly the same. I think I ended up using about 7 balls, like just a smidge of the next ball. My sweater ends up weighing 703 grams, so that is, I used 3 grams out of another ball to finish her up. So my sweater ended up taking about 1,533 yards of ultra wool. I did one other modification just because I thought it would be fun. I knit thumb holes into my sleeve, and I made my sleeve long enough so that it comes down to about the middle of my hand. And then I can slip my hand into the thumb hole, which is very nice. The thumb hole was actually quite easy to do. Although next time I think I bound off 2 stitches and then knit the sleeve, the cuff flat, and then I cast on 2 stitches and went back to knitting in the round when I had like 5 rows done. So I kept the cuff about the same length as it's written in the pattern. Next time I do that, I might make the cuff a little bit longer, because I think I needed more fabric at the top of the sleeve. I did the Italian cast on, which is actually quite lovely. And at the neck, I did the Italian bind off, which also gives a lovely finish. But I'm gonna just tell you the truth. I was hardly ready to be done with this sweater by the time I got to those cuffs. So I actually did Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, which I think actually serves me pretty well too, because I made that thumb hole.
Your hand in and out,
I built in a little extra stretch. And next time I do thumb holes, I think I will only bind off 1 stitch. But I was winging it. I was like, okay, 2 stitches will be fine. But I think my thumb hole will sit more closed if I only bind off 1 stitch.
Yeah.
So next time I do it, that's what I'll do. I didn't have a lot of missteps with the sweater. The sweater was actually quite simple to do. As long as I paid attention and didn't try to like watch a TV show with subtitles at the same time, I was good. But in the beginning, I did make one little mistake, which for me, it was okay. I knit the back hem, because that's where you start, 1/4 of an inch longer than the pattern suggested. So I resolved that by knitting the front hem 1/4 of an inch longer than the pattern suggested. That way it just balanced out.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I absolutely positively love this sweater, and I'm pretty much going to wear it to death. That's the plan. I just measured it. It came out precisely the number of inches in the chest I wanted. So I did a 64-inch chest, which gave me 14 inches of ease. And I like that. It fits exactly the way that the other one does, and that's precisely what I was going for. So feel free to play with your ease. And once I saw how much ease was in the model sweater that I have, I was like, okay, I'll go for it. So, Mom, what do you think? I think we have cute twinsy sweaters. And I'm going to put a cute twinsy picture up of us so you can see. And thank you for joining us for this. Oh, and by the way, we've had an influx of new subscribers in. Thanks for subscribing. I hope you enjoy this one. If you've made a weekender, let us know. Let us know what modifications you've done, or how you like the fit of yours. Anything else you want to say to the nice people, Mom?
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.